Hello everyone, afternoon, warm welcome to my YouTube channel. Now I've left my desk as it was from our previous video yesterday. Now this was the video and you can see the translucent texture paste on there. It's just a lovely touch. Now this Thrinchy I thought could inspire a card, and that's where I'm going. I'm going to use these products and use them to show how it can inspire a card as well. So I'm going to do exactly that. But before we do that, let's take a look at yesterday's background. So I could use this for a Thrinchy now, and I could pick one of the colours out and add a focal image. So I've got these I can use for a couple of Thrinchies. So I can use those in my book. We'll just leave those, let's leave those at the back for now. But that Thrinchy has now inspired a card. And this is what I also love about creating Thrinchies. So I've instantly picked out my card products because they're all pre-cut for me. So I've got a couple here, I think. Or is it that? No, yeah, I have got a couple. So I've got a 4x6 inch piece of Pink Frog Super Smooth card, a black matte 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and a 5x7 inch card blank. Now, also at the moment, we've got an offer on. If you buy a pack of A4 Pink Frog watercolour card, you can get a pack of A4 Pink Frog Super Smooth card, 300 GSM free. You don't need to do anything, just add the watercolour card to your basket, and then I make sure that the Super Smooth is added for free. I'm also going to be using the distress background, which we used in this one. So we're using SS31. I'm also going to be using the Zinnia. Do you like how the stamp's still out? You can tell that, you know, I literally abandoned the desk for the next job. Let's put that back. So we've got the Zinnia stamp. We're going to use the Gora here. And I'm going to start with a blending tool first. I'm also going to try and incorporate one of the rock candies. Now, the rock candy, we've got the fine, or we have the chunky. So I might use the chunky, we shall see. But they're a really good size jar as well. It's going to last you a long time. So I've got those in the shop as well. So I'm going to incorporate those somehow as well. And I'm going to use my minis. So I'm going to use Twisted Citron. I have ordered some labels. Did I order the labels? Yes, I did. So I've ordered the labels. So I'm going to use Twisted Citron. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't make any marks on your card, you really should mask those off. Now, I've got some, I don't know whether this is magic tape or low tack tape on here. I don't think that's low tack tape, but I don't know. I've got a little dispenser that I need to put my low tack tape on from the lovely Anne. So it stops me having to turn over my low tack tape. So I just need to add this to my dispenser. There we go. Which I shall do afterwards because I've got a lovely dispenser now I can just reach for. So I've got that masked off because the stencils, the snippet stencils, are 4x4. So it matches the width of that perfectly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Twisted Citron first. I'm going to use my blending brush, and I'm bringing my hand quite far down on that blending brush just to make sure that I get a really good layer of ink. And then if I want to apply it lightly, I can hold the brush further up on the handle and I'll get a light application. If you want to apply it a little bit richer and thicker, bring your hand down further onto the brush and you'll get a stronger application. Now what I'm doing is I'm sort of blending that outwards so it gives me a feathered look. I'm then going to use, what are you going to use? I think we'll use Rustic Wilderness because it's such a yummy colour. Now let me see if I've got a brush that's got a darker green on there. Yes, I think this one's got a darker green on there. So we'll take Rustic Wilderness. And then I'm just going to apply the Rustic Wilderness. And I'm not adding this too dark so that I can still see some of the previous colour on there. What I'm going to do then, actually, shall I do that afterwards? Do I do that afterwards? No. So then I'm going to grab my text stamp from TE45, the Dog Rose and Butterfly, because it talks all about the garden. So it's a perfect text to just add. So I'm then going to grab my Verdant. So I'll grab a little bit, and you can't see that over there, can you? So we'll take our Verdant, then we'll take a little bit of Shady Lane, Versifying Clair. And then I'm just going to add little bits of text to my Harlequins. Just a little bit of text here and there, and you can see that I've not sort of repeatedly inked. I'm then going to take a little bit more of the Rustic Wilderness, and I'm just going to come in a little bit more now with the Rustic Wilderness there. So I'm just coming in with that. Now you can leave just move that out of the way. You can leave that top one in place just in case you're not happy, because that gives you sort of a lever, and then you can lift this up and see if you're happy with what you've got, which I'm quite happy. I can extend the stenciling, no problem at all, and I've got the ink on there that I could make another background with. So let's leave that as it is. I may extend it a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Gora stamp, which I'm going to overlay on here, like so. I'm going to overlay this on here. So let's take our acrylic block, and I'm going to take some white embossing powder again, inspired by my Thrinchy. So let's just add some anti-static bag on there. And then we need our Versamark. You can see which ink pads I continually use, and the Versamark is one of them. I'm just chucking the stencil on the floor. And I want to keep that because it's got ink on there that I can use for another background, which seems a shame. So lots of inking, lots of tapping. And you can guess that I've not grabbed a piece of copier paper. What a surprise. There we go. So then I'm going to stamp this onto my project, like so. So this is going to go straight over the Distress background. And even with the Versamark, I don't rush that process. I still give that time And it's important that you give your ink time to absorb onto the surface of your project. I'm then going to take my Wow white embossing powder, and that should be on there. Yes, it is. So let's try and get this all in here, which I often fail, but there you go. I'm just going to grab my heat tool. So I'm just going to heat this up just so that I'm not sitting there, which is what I end up doing normally. Just so that that's heating up. And then we'll heat our embossing powder. So we'll get that lovely white against this green. Now you can see this time, let's heat it from the back as well, just so that that straightens out a little bit. You can see this time I've got no dark background in there at the moment, so you can see there's no dark background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour my florals, and this time I want to have a little bit of pink. What pink have you got in there? Sort of a brighter pink if I can. What's that one? So I've got sponge sugar. That looks like the one. Or is it that one? You can tell I don't know the colours off by heart. That one looks a bit brighter. Maybe that one. So them two I would say. So I'm going to use set 5, which has got worn lipstick in there. Which is now going to take me forever to and then I'm going to use set 1, which I'm presuming this is picked raspberry. Yes. And then we're going to grab a little bit of water. Let's have 2 blobs of water. And then I'm going to take my picked raspberry. And then I'm going to add my picked raspberry just on my embossed area. Just adding that, so the picked raspberry for me is the strongest colour, so I'm just adding that first. And you can feel where your embossing is, and I'm using that pink frog super smooth card, and because I'm using the super smooth card, that will take the moisture quite nicely. So it takes the moisture rather nicely. I will add a little bit to the stem shortly. I'm then going to take the worn lipstick. Do you like how I can't speak? And that will just blend the colour. That will blend the dark colour. So just go into that pinky colour. There we go. There we go. So you can see we've just, at the moment, just added a little bit of colour to that. Now you want the background to pop a little bit. So what I'm going to do is no, I don't want speckled egg. Let's grab our little ink pads. I bet I haven't got that one that's out, is it? No, it isn't in that one. There's one I like, hang on. Not that one. There it is. So I'm going to use, let's just mop up a little bit of our moisture. Just at the moment, just so that we're not, you know, we've not got too much. Well, I was going to say so we've not got too much on my desk, but that's no chance. I'm now going to take Lost Shadow. I'm rather taken with Lost Shadow. Just a lovely colour. Then I'm going to take my fine brush. There we go. So we'll take the Lost Shadow. Now with the Lost Shadow, you can hardly see the colour on there. So it's not too dark. I think there's another colour in my brush, you know. Let me grab that again. So I'm going to take the Lost Shadow. That's better. Looks like a Lost Shadow now. And what I'm going to do is just go around my design just with the Lost Shadow. Now, I just love doing this kind of thing. If it's not your kind of thing, then you don't need to do it. But I just love doing this. It just brings everything to life. So I'm just going around. And then I just use the diluted water sort of to soften the edges a little bit. So I just use that diluted water just to soften those edges a little bit more. These little ink pads are so juicy. Now, it doesn't matter if you touch a little bit of the green, it just adds to the background. So we just blend that out. So you're just adding a little bit of shadow, just so that everything really pops a little bit more. Because we've done it a little bit different than we did our Thrinch, you see, because we don't want to do everything the same way. You want it to look a bit different, but you're inspired by the same idea. And it shows how you can do things in different ways, and that's what I love. So let's just... And just take your water just to dilute it so it takes it off into nothing, if you know what I mean. Just takes that off into nothing. So you just use that diluted water just to take that off into nothing. And every now and then you'll just catch a little bit of the green, but that sort of adds to the whole effect. It works really well. So just make it a little bit darker, and then when you've got hardly anything on there, come in with the water and just blend that out so it's a little bit more softened. So just come in and just scribble your background just so that it's a little bit more softened. And you can see it just comes to life a little bit more, but we can do a little bit more work on there. So I'm going to take my Inktense pencil and I'm just going to add a little bit of Inktense. Let's grab some water again. And I only clean that water up just so that I don't lean in it really. You just need a little bit of water just to blend that out. Just so that they've got a little bit more dimension. There we go. So just blend that out so it's got a little bit more dimension. And you're just enjoying yourself. You're enjoying playing with your design. Well, that's supposed to be the whole point of creating. So let's add a little bit of dimension to the stem. Oh, brush the wrong way. Let's just add a little bit of that. And whilst I just remember, let's move that iPad out of the way so we don't keep hearing Ian. There we go. So we're building the life in that card a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little, I haven't decided which ones yet. I'm adding a little bit of the glitter too, but hey ho, that doesn't matter. Can you see that Inktense pencil, how it gives a little bit more of that dimension? And this is an Inktense pencil called Chinese ink. If you don't have that, why not use some watercolour or use a darker shade of oxide? It's entirely up to you what you use. But the most important thing is that you've got a really good cardstock. So we're just, and you can see I'm not drawing around this perfectly because they're distressed. They're not perfect. There we go. So you don't have to worry about it being too perfect, because those harlequins, diamondy shapes, are not perfect either, which is the whole point. Pick that bit of water up. And you can see they've instantly got a little bit more dimension. We'll obviously do that as well with the floral at some stage. Now I want to decide which diamonds to add some glitter to, some rock candy, because it's really going to give that lots of texture. So let's add near the floral here. So I'm using, I've got a tonic glue in here. You use whichever adhesive you want to add. There we go. Now this is a sort of lovely rock candy, and it adds wonderful texture to your design. So I'm just going to add this rock candy to here, and hopefully I can show you this when it's all finished. Oh yes, what a lovely touch. Just leave that out at the moment. I can get rid of any stray ones once that's dry. I'm then going to add, so we had one down here. I know this tonic glue hasn't got too much water content, so it's quite nice, that is, because it really does adhere. So I'm going to take it again. I don't want the debris, thank you. Are you going to put that, Tracy? Who knows? So we'll put this back. You can see you're not going to use much. And then I'm going to put one here. There we go. Now what I am going to do is make sure that I clean the top of my adhesive so that you can put that back quite easily, she says. There we go. Not that I need that on anyway, so I don't know why I did that. So let's add to here. There we go. Now when this sets solid, you can have some real texture on there, and it works really well. So I'm just going to take, have I got that brush anywhere? Don't know what's on that one. I need a fine brush. So the areas where I don't want that, well, it won't stick anyway because it's not got any adhesive there. There we go. Just so that you can see. So when this dries clear, that's going to be solid. So you can just take a brush, and if I've got one here, it'll just come off because it's not stuck. So I've added my colour here. So let's give this a little bit more depth. So we'll take the picked raspberry again. and just give that a little bit more depth. And you can't really get much easier colouring this way. We'll have a little bit of colour in there. Then we'll take our worn lipstick and just colour the remainder with the worn lipstick. And by having that pigment, it'll go straight over the embossing, which is rather nice. I love how it goes straight over the embossing. Now, trying to stay sort of tidy. It's not brilliant, but I'm trying to stay sort of tidy. So then I'm going to come down now, and we're just going to add a little bit more down here. And you can, I've got little bits of glitter there. That will just flick off when I've finished. But I'm just coming into the embossing just so that we can I've got little bits of, there we go. So we'll just leave that, and then I'm going to come round the floral a little bit. I'm just going to come round my floral, and it's wonderful because that embossing just resists the ink. It's quite a nice feeling when it, obviously I can go straight over the embossing and it's just going to resist it. And wherever it's touched my embossing, I can just wipe that off. So let's come round here. So you're just adding a little bit of depth around your floral, and it's only a little bit. Now, if you want, you can just use your distress products quite easily. You don't have to add more depth if you don't wish. I just don't think you can beat it when you just add a little bit more depth to your project. There we go. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take some pencils and add a little bit more, only a little bit more depth, but you can just see, I just want this to dry solid because you can scratch at it and it doesn't move, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful texture. So I'm just going to give this a dry because I want to add a little bit of pencil work. Now I can't dry that too much because you've got that embossing on there. Now just remember that you've got the embossing on there. So don't go sort of sitting it there for ages because you've got that embossed texture on there. So I'm then just going to come with a little bit of a dark colour, which is Black Cherry 1078. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that black cherry. I'm not going to cover up all my distress. I'm just adding a little bit of a darker touch with that black cherry, just to give a little bit more depth. Now, the embossing obviously resists where we've got the embossing, but you'll get little touches of your pencil just so that it adds a little bit more depth, just a little touch more depth. And then we can just come in and just add a little bit of that colour just where the embossing is. And then I'm going to take Process Red 994 and just add a little bit more. Now again, not covering up all that distress, I'm just adding a little touch more depth. And wherever you've got your embossing, you can wipe over that quite easily. So we'll do that when everything is dry, because you don't really want to do it when it is actually all wet. You don't want to do that at all. Now what I want to do is just extend a little bit of the design. So I'm going to extend a little bit here, maybe a little bit of one there. So I'm just using the ink that I've literally got on my brushes just to extend the design, just so that I don't want it as squarey and blocky. So I'm just extending that like so, and just so I've just used what is on my brushes to add a little bit more of that stenciling, because I want that design elongated just a little bit, because I just think it looks nice when it's elongated just a little bit as well. Because if we move this out of the way and you bring in, sorry, shaking me. If you bring in another piece of card, you spritz your stencil, spritz that stencil, and we'll just wipe over the edges. So I've spritzed this stencil with water, and hopefully we've got some extra ink on there that Tracy can't pick up. And then you can add that to another card. Just dab with a piece of dry kitchen towel. Just give it a little bit of time. You want the inks just to soak onto there. And you can see I've not wasted too much ink, but there is a little bit on there, which could be the start of another card. It always sort of breaks that blank page. And once you break that blank page, it really does help. So it's just lovely. So I'm going to take the text stamp, which was from TE45, and then we're going to grab those inks again. I'm going to take a little bit of Verdant and then a little bit of Shady Lane. And then we're going to add a little bit more stamping, just so that those other harlequins, diamondy shapes, are brought in to the design a little bit. So just bring those into the design a little bit, so it all looks considered. Where did I put that down? And there it is. I keep putting it back in the same place. Now you want these to stand out just like your others have done. Even if you've just got part of that harlequin design, you just want those to stand out just as much. So let's take our water and let's blend these out. And again, it does not matter at all if you touch your green, because it just brings a little bit of that green out into the design, so don't worry about that too much. There we go. Just brings them out, and it looks like we've considered the design a little bit, just so that you can see that. So this now is definitely drying. It's getting quite hard. And when it's solid dry, honestly, you can scratch your hands right across it, and it is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to add another layer of the black cherry, just to give a little bit more depth. Now I'm going straight over the embossing, and it's only going to add a little bit to there. Now the idea is that you're just having a single layer card. Now if you want to, you could cut out those floral pieces as well. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading just here. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is grab another piece of super smooth card. Then I'm going to take the Gora once again and my Versamark. Now which one do you want? Just do both, then it doesn't matter. So I'm just taking the florals. So the idea is I'm not stamping the whole thing. Now obviously you can leave it exactly like that one layer card. You've not cut any dimension out or anything like that. It's entirely up to you. So let's bring in our embossing powder now. Don't pick up the glitter. So I've just used my Wow embossing powder. I don't know how I get in such a mess with one card. So I'm just going to heat this. It's just the floral I'm looking at. And it's probably just going to be one, but I'm just heating them both up because I can't make my mind up, so it's easier to do that. Just tilt that towards the light, which is also what I have to do, especially in this poor light at this time of year. There we go, I can see that going now. There we go. But I do love that texture on there with that, just lovely. You could also do it with the heart as well and add the florals inside the heart. So I'm going to colour one of the florals now. Which one do you want? No, Can't make my mind up, so let's just go for it. So I have the black cherry. And I'm just going straight over my embossing, because that embossing is going to resist that. Let's just do one. Where is my... So then I'm going to use the Process Red. Straight over the embossing. And then I'm going to use the Grade Lavender PC 1026. There we go. So then I'm going to go back to the Black Cherry 1078. And really, you don't have to colour much. You then come into the Process Red. And then the Grade, was it Grade Lavender? 1026. And you can literally use a little bit of your kitchen towel. And you can completely miss your kitchen towel if you want with the water that's now on there. And then you can just dab your embossing and it'll just lift anything that's removable. You can do the same on your white embossing here. And it'll lift anything that, you know, is not properly stuck down. I'm then going to take my scissors. I can't see, I don't think do you know, I haven't coloured that all, have I? There we go, that's better. How to colour half a floral. The embossing that you've got on the floral actually makes it easier to cut out because you've literally got that edge to go right up against. So it works quite nicely for cutting out. And the floral is easy to cut out. It's not a problem. And just for the little bit of the spiky bits, you just go up and down. Don't be too hard on yourself. The sort of polleny bits. It's nothing too difficult. There we go. And then you can bring in, only if you want a little bit more dimension to the top of the floral. With the gory, you can even bring it further down. So just decide where you want to add your extra piece. If you want to add the extra piece, it's entirely up to you. I'm not sure whether I'm going to add that yet because I'm just a pain. I'm then going to take, which one are you going to have? Where is he? Where's TE? That's it. I'm going to take TE51 and use my bird here. I just put them back mainly so that it's just off my desk and I haven't got too much lying around everywhere, which is what I end up doing. So let's just add. So I want my black ink. Let's remove that. Let's put these minis back. Just means I'm not so overwhelmed by everything. Think. Black ink. It's like, what do I need? So I want my black ink now, and I'm going to take that Nocturne, ink that up lots of times, tap, tap, lots of tapping, preferably not around the edge of my acrylic block. And then I'm going to sort of add my little bird. Let's bring this in so you can actually see what I am doing. There we go. And he's sort of looking at the floral. Just give that a little bit of time. You just need it to absorb onto the surface of your card. Lovely. Why have I got what? You know why that is, don't you? That's a little bit of glitter. Gone. That's a little bit of glitter. There it is. On my card. A little bit of glitter that is now black. And it is on my nail. So make sure you try and miss your glittery bits, which Tracy didn't. So let's just add a little bit of shading under there. There we go. And shall we add a little bit of shading just around our bird? And then you can just blend that out. And then you can just dab with your kitchen roll. You see, you could add the floral with the bird as well. I'm a bit fussy in that I don't like adding too much. No, it's not working for me. Might work for you, but doesn't work for me. That's just me all over. So I'm going to then take the Gora word. Let's take that Gora word. You could also, see, ideas always going through my mind. You can even cut the bird out and you could have the floral behind the bird. So put the bird on the top and the flower. Just trying to give you lots of different ideas. I'm then going to take that Gora wording. And again, I'm going to use my black ink, my Nocturne ink. Just give that a few seconds. There we go. And I'm just, the problem with me is I enjoy playing. I enjoy the colouring. I enjoy adding the finishing touches. So it does sometimes take me a little bit longer, mainly because I'm one of those people that loves faffing, but that's what I enjoy doing. Just makes me happy. There we go. I'm going to add the Gora wording around about there, because that then also grounds the flower a little bit as well. There we go. Give that a little bit of time. I'm trying to remember to give it a little bit of time before I try and add the shading underneath. So let's add some splatters. Now I also should have remembered to add the splatters before I put my wording on, but if like me you don't, just take a little bit of card. We always have loads of scraps of card left, and you can just cover your word up. Then you can add a few little splatters to your background. And you can remove that, and you've not got that on your word. Let's just give that a waft dry, mainly because we don't want, when we're adding the black mat, we don't want to dip our fingers into the white. There we go. So then I can just add some shading. It's no wonder I lose my pencil, isn't it? Been with me since COVID. So I'm rather attached to that little pencil. And I have got pencil extenders as well. There we go. Let's take a little bit of white and let's just blend that out. Just so that we've got some shading underneath there as well. If you wanted to, you can also sort of bring in a little bit more colour to the chevrons if you wanted to, by adding a little bit more dimension. But because I've got this on, still not quite dry yet, I've got some lovely texture on there, which is wonderful. Right, I'm just going to grab a little bit of a darker pencil. Where are you? Where's the purples? Is that a little bit? I think I've probably got the darkest colour actually. Let me grab. So you could easily come in and just add a little bit of pencil work to your sort of distressed harlequins if you wanted to. Where is the, what colour are you? No, I want a warm grey. So is that this? I am talking to myself. Doesn't look that cool to me. Warm grey, 30% warm grey, and then I want something very pale. That will do. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit more definition. So 30% warm grey, 1052. And I'm just going to add a little bit more warm grey. Now, I'm not coming in too hard or too harsh. I'm just lightly layering some of that warm grey just around the floral a little bit. Only a little bit. It's nothing too much. Just a little bit more of that grey, mainly because Tracy loves faffing. Then I'm going to use the cool grey and just blend that out with a little bit of the cool grey. Just a little bit more. Just so that you can see. Oh, just love it now. Right, I've got so much cleaning up to do. I'm now going to add this to a black mat, which will just make that pop really nicely. I'm hoping this gives Deborah another idea as well. There we go. So let's just add, then I'm going to pick that up. And we've, apart from the sentiment, we've got a 1-layer card, but it's got dimension, it's got texture. It's just lovely. So you can see I'm just bending that card just to convince it to stick in the middle as well. Then we'll add that to a 5x7 card blank. Makes a huge difference when you mat and layer your card. You could even add a little bit of green in your matting and layering. So it just make sure that, there we go. And a huge difference it makes by matting and layering. I'm just going to add a little touch of white. There we go. And I think these have got enough sort of lightness on here that you can actually see. Just adding a few touches of white here and there, just to bring in a little bit more of a finishing touch. And if I hold that up, you can then see the texture and the dimension and the colouring. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you'll give that a go. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.